More talking shop today on the Public Relations Podcast because Amanda Proscia from Lightspeed PR is joining us once again. And the reason is because she's right in the middle of promoting two huge events in the augmented reality space at the moment. And also because Amanda is just a great person to chat to as well. Amanda, it's so awesome to have you on again because I know you are so incredibly busy. I know I say this about everyone, but you really do have some amazing projects on. But I really was interested when I saw you were doing this augmented reality expos. I guess the first question for people that haven't got a clue what it is, what is augmented reality?
Augmented reality has had a couple of different names over the years, which is probably leading to some of the confusion. It used to be called virtual reality or augmented reality. Now it's being called XR, which is kind of the umbrella term that captures all things outside of your world. If you put on a headset or if you have some kind of non-reality experience that you're experiencing somehow or other for whatever it may be, training, it may be learning, it may be a gaming, but XR is the big term that captures all of those
And
things.
it's kind of overlaying data on top of reality. I mean, actually, a lot of people listening to this now probably don't really remember Minority Report, but I always think of it as being kind of like the movie that personified it. But also, it's like, I mean, even if you think about people playing computer games now, where you've got a kind of heads up display, or you see how many bullets you've got left in your gun, or your health counter and stuff like that. It's that kind of thing, I guess, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. Only being taken further and further. So the limits of XR are being pushed all the time. And it even actually encompasses what we used to be calling the metaverse, although that
Yeah.
term is, as all my PR friends will know, that term is very well dead. It's now being called spatial computing. The new Apple Vision Pro, which is sort of taking a lot of the air of XR right now, they are referring to that as spatial computing.
Well,
So
let's talk about how you do a campaign for this then, because I mean, first of all, who are you targeting? Are you targeting attendees of the event, or are you trying to get the message out about XR? What was the kind of brief?
Well, this is actually the 15th year of the Augmented World Expo. It's called AWE to a lot of those who attend. Our mission for AWE was to generate media attention and media attendance. So there's two shows, one happening in mid-June in Long Beach, California. That's the US show. The second one is in October in Vienna. That's the European show. And they hired us to get the word out, get interest, help them attract sponsors. It's amazing how quickly it's evolving. We're noticing in my agency where we've been working in XR for quite a while now, it's helped us enormously because there's becoming more and more an XR specialty in the media. And you have to know who those people are and who those publications are. And if you're not quite fluent in what all the new XR things are and how to talk about it, then those reporters they move on because it's so quick and it's so frenetic. But yes, there's the audience is really that growing base of XR media who want to be on the cutting edge.
So you've obviously, it's interesting. I was talking to a friend, a journalist the other day, who was saying that one of the problems he's got with going to some events these days is that they're not delivering enough of a story to make it worthwhile for him to go. So, this is so important, isn't it? It's making sure that you've actually got something that the journalist has a reason to turn up because with budgets being cut, it's harder than ever to get them there.
That's very true, and it's something that a lot of event organizers don't think of. That sort of larger narrative. Yes, for AWE, I think we're lucky in that with major companies like Apple, the Apple Vision
Mm.
Pro, and Oculus, and the reporting and the advertising going on around XR, and how moving at the speed of light. It's there's always something new and exciting to talk about. AWE has several different tracks. Marketing is one of them. Science, technology. There's all kinds of different speaking tracks, and then the show floor will just be covered with everything from startups to the big players. So
So you've
there's a
actually
lot.
kind of got a problem there because you've got a lot of different narratives then, yeah? So how did you decide what to focus on? What did you do with that?
I think really it was just the excitement of all that's new in XR.
Mhm.
So for us, the story is this is a can't miss event. If you miss this, then all of this technology is going to pass you by because you won't have seen it as it's being demonstrated in some of it in its infancy, some of it being shown for the first time. Some of these technologies are, they're going to be demoed for all the participants. It's going to be so exciting. And if you miss that opportunity, you'll be behind the story.
So how did you reinforce it? Kind of going back to my friend again and reassuring these people that it is worth coming as a journalist, spending the money to go to the event. How did you do that?
It's really speaking their language. It's talking to these reporters who are already fairly up to speed on what's going on and reminding them about all these new players and not just the big guys. I mean, they take a lot of air out of the room for PR people.
Mm.
We're talking about Apple or Meta, but there's so many newer and startups and or people who have been around a little while and they have new tech.
So the
It's
hook is kind of saying, if you don't come, you won't have that story, and the other XR publication down the road is going to have it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. You won't have seen it for yourself. You won't be able to ask the developers themselves in person,
Mm.
how did this come about? How does it work? Who is it for? How's it being used? What do you see in the future for it? That those opportunities are you just don't get those except at an event.
And how much do you work with the event itself to kind of make sure that these stories are coming out of it? Because, you could be coming up with the most amazing pitch, but if the event itself doesn't deliver, then those journalists, again, are going to be pretty disappointed, aren't they? So what kind of relationship do you have with them and how do you work with that?
They're extraordinary. This is actually we've been working with them for years now, and as
Mm.
this is their 15th year, they really know how to do it. They're at the forefront of all of these things. They have extraordinary relationships. They know all the right speakers to invite. They know how to develop a speaking track. And I will say a little plug for myself. I'm going to be one of the speakers about PR from the XR perspective. And
I've got to ask
I'm
you about
booked
that.
this year.
Yeah.
So knowing the right blend, how to attract the right interest of the people who are attending and putting together a program that's really at the cutting edge of XR, but also a good diversity of topics. The show managers of AWE really they're the best of the best.
I mean, Amanda, you've been doing this stuff for a while, okay? You must have worked with events that didn't quite get it and those that do, clearly, like this one. What would you say is the kind of the biggest thing that the event people need to think about when they're working with someone like you to make sure that you can actually do your job?
Yeah, exactly like you said earlier. There has to be something there. There has to be a news there. If you're just throwing an event for the sake of trying to pull people in or sell tickets and there's really no news, there's no story, everything's just been played over and over again. If the speakers are saying something that has been said a million times, there's nothing revelatory.
Mm.
Then you're just wasting people's time. There has to be a reason to get people out, to show them something that they couldn't see otherwise, to have them learn something they couldn't have heard in another place. Give them a real reason to be there.
The world is obviously changing all the time. PR and comms is changing all the time. Have you noticed anything kind of new with the event this year, or just the way that you're having to work with people, or the way that you can deliver those messages? Anything new that you've caught?
I'm noticing a lot of media are much more interested in the lead up. They want to know what they're going to be getting out of the event. They want to know who's on the show floor, what they're going to be demonstrating, who the speaker tracks are, why should I be attending, and then if I am there, which reporter should I send? We're working with some very large media. If I send a business reporter, will they have something to talk about? If I send a tech guy, is it all just XR or is there a larger story? How much can we, how many different little things can we wring out of this particular event that'll make it worth our while?
So it's becoming more important than ever now, from a comms point of view, to not just say, look, we've got this event, you'll love it, but to actually almost tell them what stories they're going to get in advance. You're pretty much lining it up. And then presumably when you're on site, you're going to be kind of pointing people to those people to make sure they connect, right?
Very much so. Yes. Making sure that the reporters get the best experience that they can,
Mm.
directing them to the right demonstrations, to the right leaders, to, okay, if you're visiting this booth, make sure you talk to this person, make sure you see these things. If you're attending any of the events, ask these questions, or there's a Q&A at this one, really making it worth their while.
I was interested. You said you were giving a talk about PR and XR, but I mean, it does fascinate me, this kind of technology that kind of almost going beyond just the traditional idea of press being PR, and how we're going to use this kind of technology to communicate in the future. Just comms as a whole, marketing as a whole. I mean, do you see where these things might go? I mean, looking into your crystal ball, Amanda, if you're looking to that globe, what do you see?
It's amazing what these things can create for everyone. I mean, from a PR person, we're going to be talking about how XR is changing how we do our jobs for these companies. So, the reason I wrote my book is because so many, especially startups, they just don't know what PR is or how it
Mm.
can be applied to their business. So we want to help them understand, you don't have to always be losing out on the headlines to the major players. There's
Mm.
there's an opportunity to tell your story. There's an opportunity to develop your narrative and make sure that the right people are learning about these products and these innovations that you're coming up with.
So true. I mean, do you see though that I don't know, we're gonna see kind of more marketing appearing in front of people's eyes when they're walking around events wearing VR I don't know. I'm not an expert in this kind of stuff. I'm just kind of, you're closer to this. I mean, where do you see it going?
Yeah, the sky's the limit with that. It could be absolutely where well, and the newer headsets, there's what they're calling a mixed reality. So you're not just enveloped in this other world. There's a camera that shows you the outside world, give you a little bit of perspective. So how those cameras are used or how those different mixes might be leveraged for advertising or for marketing or to, do product placements. Or I mean, heaven's sakes, there are VR influencers out there now. There are non-people influencers telling people,
I know.
garbage
We
influencer.
saw that stuff with Vasa One the other day from Microsoft, where they're turning a 2D picture into a 3D, and I was reading that they're modeling it using facial characteristics that connect with us on authentic level. So the way it's moving is deliberately designed to trigger our internal feelings of authenticity and bonding with it, and it's just, I mean, it's scary, but it's also kind of fascinating, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm equal parts terrified and
Mhm.
fascinated.
Yeah.
Just the fact that, a non-human can influence millions and millions of people. You as PR people, we're pitching non-humans.
Yes. Yes.
Influence of our clients. It's perfect. But at the same time, yeah, it's like, well, how manipulated am I being
I
by
know. I know.
your product?
We're just gonna have to see how it goes, aren't we? Listen, before we round up, because we always have so short on time, but anything else you've seen going on recently that you think is really exciting? And then I want to ask you about your tip on staying positive in PR, because there's so much stuff being written at the moment about stress in PR and comms generally. I mean, no one has 100% perfect day. What do you do? What does Amanda do when you have that day where it's just like, oh my gosh, why can't this work?
I wish I had a great answer to that. I don't. It depends, honestly. It depends on how I'm having my buttons pushed. I take a lot of solace in my wonderful team,
Yeah.
because usually somebody's having a good day. And we try to connect across all our channels and say, all right, hey, who's got a good story for me? Who's got
Yeah.
a client who's happy? Um, then that there's always the good old fashioned get away from your desk, take a walk, do something else, to engage with another person doing something else. Those are the things that can bring your blood pressure down. But
Sounds like your secret then is just connect with someone that's being positive to let them lift you up a little bit, and then you can do the same for them another day, can't you?
that's usually what I go to,
Yeah,
yes, because it reminds you that and to being that person for someone else when you're having a good day.
exactly. And finally,
Whatever.
very quickly, any campaigns out there that you yourself aren't doing, someone else is doing, that's kind of caught your eye that you thought, wow, that's good.
Honestly, the one that I've been reading about recently is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but the Boy Scouts of America
I've
for
seen some stuff.
years.
Yeah.
They're a century-old plus
Mm.
organization, and they have been evolving, but just recently announced through, I believe, Fleischman Hilliard, that they're now going to be Scouting America.
Mm.
And that is a major rebrand of this institution. But I think they've handled it very, very well. And I love the messages of inclusivity, how it's resonating with former scouts and all that they've gotten out of it. I think that's been a very well accomplished rebranding. It's something that was pretty fraught that they did a great job with.
Yeah, because you're bound to get a negative side on that one, aren't you? You're going to get people saying, oh, you can't change history and whatever like that. So you've got to be prepared for those kinds of messages and dealing with it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's
Amanda, as always, a total pleasure talking to you. I hope you will come on again with your next campaign because I love having you on this show. So thank you so much for your time today.